Hello everybody and welcome to the United Stand. This is the Manchester United versus Norwich preview. I hope we can beat Norwich. That is the sort of thing that Solskjaer has been ridiculed for today, because apparently that's what he said. We'll be going through some of the things that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has said, how we might line up in this game. But I'm going to start off on a rare positive and say, look, predictions are predictions, but I think we're going to win this game. I think Norwich, the way they play, the high press, the amount of goals they let in, it's perfect for a team that counter-attacks. So I think that United have got a real opportunity to win this game. But I just want to start off with something controversial before we get into the game and everything like that. I want to just say as well, it is our Ryan Giggs event tonight in Birmingham. So make sure you're following us on Twitter, on Instagram, because we will have stories, we will have clips going up on those social media platforms. The links are in the video description. Could be some interesting stuff coming out from that. But what I wanted to say first of all is, I've seen a lot of people today talking about why Manchester United are so bad, this, that and the other. And look, it's very, very easy why we're bad. Bad players, bad coaching. That's what it's all about. But I have this theory. Some of you might like it, some of you might not. But you know what? I think that with Manchester United, I was thinking this last night, I was trying to get to sleep, probably not the best thing, because United normally do put you to sleep. I was trying to solve the problems, which is quite difficult. Brandon Williams, man of the match last night. Garner played well. McTominay gets a lot of praise. Greenwood, we want to come through. And I thought, you know what? We're being mugged off. We're being mugged off. We're being mugged off by the future. Manchester United, unprecedented, brought through but the Nevilles, Giggs, Beckham and Scholes, right? And 3 or 4 of those players went on to be world class. Not just good players, they went on to be world class, which is very, very rare. On top of that, they were nurtured by arguably some of the best leaders English football's ever had. Roy Keane, Peter Schmeichel, Eric Cantona, Steve Bruce. And yet here we are in 2019 being sold youth, right? I'm old enough to know that class of 92 were freaks, how good they were, and they were also nurtured by some of the best leaders the game's ever had. We've got no leaders now, and I don't for 1 minute think even 3 of the players we've got coming through are going to be anywhere near the level of a Scholes or a Giggs or a Beckham. So I think we're being kidded. I thought Brandon Williams played really well last night. I think James Garner's got potential. I think Greenwood's got potential. I think McTominay's okay. But the reality is, the club are selling us like that's the future. But when you actually scratch the surface with the youth, right, what are the chances that we even get 2 or 3 top-class players from that youth? And when will they be ready anyway? Brandon Williams played well last night. There's no way. You can imagine what Mo Salah would do to him, quite rightly. He's not ready yet. James Garner, imagine what happens to him if he comes up against someone like Kante or De Bruyne. They're not ready anyway. But we're being sold this perfect dream by the club that look at all this youth we've got, and in the future they're going to be really good. But if you've got a brain, you already know, well, the future might never come. That's the brilliance of it. Let's just all sit back and wait for a future that may never happen anyway. And also, when you look at the facts, how many clubs produce 3 or 4 top-class youth players? It doesn't happen hardly ever, and you need to nurture them correctly. So, look, I know a few people won't like that, and I'm not digging out the youth there. I'm just saying they're not ready. And how many of them are actually going to be that good? And how does most importantly, how does the future help the now? We're just being sold this narrative of the future that may never happen. And when you're talking about where Manchester United are going wrong, we don't create enough chances from open play because our midfield is crap. Mata is useless. Lingard is useless. Fred and McTominay, as much as we like their graft and grind, they don't play forward passes and they lose the ball a lot. But we've got into that state now where we admire and shout up players who put effort in. And I remember saying this 18 months ago under Jose Mourinho and losing it, saying effort in a United shirt should be an expectation, not something we applaud. But actually, we are now applauding effort. McTominay, in his last couple of games, hasn't actually played that well for the position he's playing. He's made a lot of tackles, and let's throw Fred into it as well. They've made a lot of tackles, they've put a lot of effort in, but when they're on the ball, they're constantly giving the ball away. They constantly, when they get the ball, they play it 5s. To keep the ball, they play like passwards, backwards and forwards, and they get bypassed a lot as well. Our midfield is atrocious. Absolutely atrocious. And I like Fred and I like McTominay, but let's be honest, we're giving him a day off because they are grafters, which is great in a team that's not got many, but we're miles off. That midfield is atrocious. And I include Mata and I include Lingard in that. And I keep saying this, the failure to sign Bruno Fernandes, which was basically served up on a plate, the failure to sign Bruno Fernandes is going to hurt us every day of this season. We've got no creativity in our midfield, and there was a midfielder who was desperate to come to the Premier League, who's got goals and assists coming out of his arse, and we refuse to do that, to stay with players like Juan Mata, who are done, absolutely done. But that's my statement there, and I don't know what you think about it, and I think it's really important. I think we are being sold a joke. An absolute joke. And look, I hope this youth is really good, but I lived through an absolute one-off with the class of 92. There were 3 or 4 of those players were world class, and they got nurtured by some of the best leaders there's ever been. How is that? And to get that again would be it won't happen. But we haven't even got the right scenario, environment to make that happen again. And also with the youth players like Brandon Williams, like Garner, like Greenwood, I remember people like Beckham and Scholes coming into the team, and it was years before they actually won the title. So we're miles off even if that happens, but we're being sold it like they're hiding behind it. They are hiding behind it. They're hiding behind Brandon Williams last night. Oh, Brandon Williams was brilliant, which he was. But let's focus on the actual team performance, which was a joke. We're hiding behind this future dream because it protects you in the now, but the now is what matters. And the now is what matters. Let's talk about Norwich at the weekend. I think United will win this game, but I think there's 2 ways that we may line up on this. And I have got Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's quotes, which were very, very interesting. Now, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer has come out and said, I hope we can beat Norwich. He spoke Norwich up. And I think he almost, in a way, I would give him a positive pat on the back here, but he's almost baiting Norwich into the way he wants them to play, because he said, look, Norwich have a clear philosophy, they've been brave, and they've got great results from that, like Norwich and Chelsea. I think they actually lost to Chelsea, didn't they? But they've been brave, they've got some great results from it, and they've got a clear philosophy, which is interesting because we're not brave and we have got no clear philosophy. So Ollie is just highlighting to me how poor we are. But I think what he's saying to Norwich there about having a clear philosophy and being brave, he's basically trying to say to Norwich, play your way, because that will walk straight into our path. If Norwich want to get a draw at the weekend, just get everyone behind the ball. We're clueless. We're absolutely clueless. We might get a set piece, but we very rarely do that. So Ole Gunnar Solskjaer wants Norwich to come at us and press us high up the pitch because he knows there's space in behind. And United, when there's space in behind, we can all be negative, but when a team comes at us and leaves space in behind, we do quite well. Chelsea, Liverpool, even that moment where we got the penalty against Partizan, that was because they left space in behind. So he wants Norwich to do that, and I think that's why he's baiting them out. But will Norwich fall into that trap? I don't know. He also spoke about he said we need to be at our best to have a chance, and he's probably right there. He's probably right there. A lot of people are predicting a loss in this game. I can see us winning it by 2 goals, and people will say you're drunk, but it's not. This is Friday lunchtime. Or will be later, but I think United will get a couple of goals on this one, because I just think Norwich are probably a decent team to play, because I think I'd be more worried about playing Brighton or Newcastle or a team that's going to sit back against them, and I don't think Norwich will do that. And on top of that, Norwich have had a lot of injuries. But let me just talk about the 2 formations I've gone here. I've gone with the 3-4-1-2 or the 5-3-2 or the 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it. I've gone with that because he's used it in the last 2 games. And Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, excuses is the title on the video. Because I think there is a lot of excuses coming out United. I think this youth focus is an excuse. I think hiding behind grinders who actually haven't got much football ability is an excuse. But his biggest excuse I saw in his press conference for this Norwich game was that injuries have made us get into a position where results didn't come, and we had lots of fit centre-backs, good centre-backs and quality centre-backs. So basically he's saying he's playing the 3-5-2 because he's got lots of fit centre-backs, and injuries have forced him to, have cost us get in key positions. Paul Pogba's the only injury, and Martial's the only long-term injury we've had. They're 2 very good players, but they are the only injuries. And in relation to the midfield, Paul Pogba is the only midfielder who's been injured. Like Matic, it doesn't matter if Matic is injured. He's awful, and he's only recently been injured anyway. He's been dropped a lot of the time, quite rightly. So Pogba's the only injury we've had in the midfield. And we're talking excuses again about, I've had to go to 3 at the back because I've had injuries. Well, Pogba's the only injury you've had. And this is a player that actually made it obvious he didn't want to be here. So it was a bit of an obvious thing to address in the summer, that the midfield is totally reliant on a player whose mentality may not be totally focused on United, but actually is injured anyway, and it's only the start of the season. If you look at this season so far, Pogba's missed well over 50% of it, and we're only in October. There's no guarantee he's going to play when he gets back, is he going to play till May? I'm sure he'll get another injury. So we are totally reliant on Pogba. You can't say, oh, I've had loads of injuries, so I've had to go to 3 at the back. The injuries we've had, realistically, in the midfield and the attack have been one attacker and one midfielder. I don't agree that Lingard being injured, and he's only just been injured, and he got back very quickly. He's been poor. And Pogba's been out. Pogba and Martial are the long-term injuries to 2 key players. But if you are going to be on your knees and having to go 3 at the back because of that, then it just really goes to show how inept and unprepared we are for this season. We've already seen him go, oh, the youth are ready. And when he was talking about the youth being ready, he was talking about Greenwood, Chong and Gomez. Well, last night, Chong and Gomez weren't even good enough to be even part of a Europa League squad. So it is excuses. We haven't got enough quality in the midfield. We haven't got enough quality in the attack. And we're totally focused on Paul Pogba, which I said in August, which was ridiculous. We're Manchester United. We should not be focused on one player. But I don't buy into this injury stuff. And he also said that injuries have done this to us, but it's working quite well, about the 3-5-2. And I was like, we've played the 3-5-2 twice. It worked for about half an hour in the first half against Liverpool. Then they figured it out. We were terrible in the second half, and we were terrible all last night. So if you take the 2 games of the 3-5-2 as a whole, you could comfortably say 75% of it we've played dreadful. 25% of it, the first half against Liverpool, I'll be generous, I'll say the whole first half then, was good. Second half against Liverpool was terrible, and all against Partizan Belgrade was terrible. Yeah, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's there saying it's worked quite well. I actually think Partizan Belgrade is our worst performance of the season. And I know there's a few candidates. Unfortunately, we've got no candidates for best game of the season apart from Chelsea, which actually they played better than us. We were just very good on the break. But we've got loads of candidates for what's the worst game of the season. And I actually think Partizan Belgrade was the worst game of the season because they are comfortably the worst team we've played. I think Rochdale were better than them. And yes, we won the game, but that was the worst we've played. So all this talk that 3-5-2 works well, I don't really like it. So going into the Norwich game, he's going to go one of 2 ways, I think. I think if we go with the 3-5-2 and assuming Twansibi's out, it'll be Rojo, Maguire and Lindelof as the back 3. Ashley Young will come in at left back, Wan-Bissaka at the right wing back. McTominay and Fred will hold the midfield. Lingard is apparently can play in a midfield 3, apparently. Ollie was saying that Lingard being back's a positive. He can play in a midfield 3. I don't think he can play anywhere, to be honest. And then you would assume he'll go Martial and Rashford up front, which, to be honest with you, if it works, makes us a threat as a front 2. I'd be interested to see the Martial Rashford front 2. But of course, the glaring error with this formation is, yet again, it's way too defensive. You know, you've got 3 centre-backs, 2 wing-backs, 2 holding midfielders, and then Rashford and Martial up front. I wouldn't do that. And also it means Dan James is on the bench. So he could go with that. He may well go with that. His other option, if he wants James to play, is to go with this. Rashford to the left, James to the right, Martial up front, Lingard, McTominay and Fred as the midfield 3 again, because we know Pogba and Matic will definitely be out. Young and Wan-Bissaka as the fullbacks. Take Rojo out, Maguire and Lindelof. That's the team I would like to see, because there is no way Dan James should be on the bench. There's no way Martial should be on the bench. And there's probably no way Rashford should be on the bench. We need all 3 of them playing. So he's got to be brave in this Norwich game. If he, and this is what we want. You know, he can't say that Norwich are brave and they've got a philosophy and then not be brave ourselves. Look, he may well be scared about conceding goals against Norwich in the high press, but are we going to go like that and be ultra defensive and probably not get much supply to Rashford and Martial and put one of our best players of the season on the bench in Daniel James? I mean, I almost thought about, could Daniel James play the Lingard role, but he's not. You know, that Lingard role isn't really a number 10. It's there to support the midfield. It's going to be Mata or Lingard in that. So Dan James would be on the bench in this situation unless he benched Martial, which would be stupid. So that team is probably the one he's going to go with. But ultimately, I don't think that, you know, it's too defensive again. Go with that. That's the team he's going to have to build out with, isn't he? Because Pogba comes into a couple of positions there. You could put Pogba in the Lingard position. You could put Pogba in the Fred or McTominay position. But that's how I would line up in this game. You can't be dropping Dan James to play three at the back, three centre-backs. We don't want to see that happening. But I do think we'll win it. I mean, a little bit on Norwich. I think Pucky's overhyped. I think, as I said on Twitter, I think he started off hot, but he started off like a bowl of hot custard in his yellow jersey, didn't he? But he's gone a little bit colder than a penguin's nutsack now. But, United shouldn't be conceding many goals against Norwich, and I think there's plenty of opportunities to score because of the way they play. You look at a game tactically, I understand why people are going to be negative, but the reality is, if you look at a game tactically, Norwich like to press high up the pitch, they do leave gaps at the back. United like to sit deep and hit teams on the break, so it should favour us. If we defend well and we attack well, when we get the opportunities which the spaces Norwich will provide, then we should win this game. So I'm going to go United to win it 2-0 or 3-1, which I know sounds a bit optimistic. And we do need to be optimistic, by the way, because if you look at that league table, and I've got no intention of ruining your weekend, if you look at that league table, United, I think we're 14th. We could be as low as 16th when this game kicks off on Sunday. If we lose the game, we could drop into the bottom three. But I think to be after 10 games in the bottom half of the table is unacceptable. We've got to win this game, and I think we could go up as high as 9th or 8th. So this is the game to win. There are no excuses with this game. I know the title says excuses, but we're running out of excuses now. You've got Norwich are a team that's probably going to get relegated, by the way. It's all right, Ollie's saying it's always difficult against Norwich. What's he talking about? It's always difficult against Norwich. They're not even in the Premier League that much. They're in the bottom three. We've got to go and win. This is what I'm talking about as well, that people really don't seem to be grasping when they're all positive. Look at the starts of the season we've had. The fixtures we've had have been very favourable, and we've taken 10 points from 9 games. Shocking. We've played Newcastle away, who are going to who are in the relegation zone. We've played Southampton away, who are also going to struggle with relegation. We've played some of the top 6 sides, but they've all been at home. We've lost to Palace at home, which should have been 3 points. We've lost to West Ham away, who again are not a great side. So we've dropped a lot of points. We can't be dropping any more points because the league is played over 38 games, but you can break a league down and go, that's 3 points, that's 3 points. You can't be dropping points there. And we've already dropped a lot of points where we shouldn't have done it. We can't be dropping more points against the bottom 3 side like Norwich again. We've got to go and win this game, and I expect us to win it. I really do. What else did he say? We also there was an interesting thing that he also said about how he was talking about his centre backs and talking them up, saying Rojo's played in a World Cup final, Phil Jones has played in a World Cup semi-final, and I'm like, this is starting to sound a little bit... Excuses. It's starting to sound a little bit like Jose Mourinho now, where you're getting these weird comments coming out to sort of justify your own decisions. You don't need to tell us that Phil Jones has played in a World Cup semi-final. You don't need to tell us that Rojo's played in a World Cup final. They've also made loads and loads of mistakes in a United shirt, which is why a lot of people don't trust them. But very, very interesting as well. As I said last night, Phil Jones made more dribbles, had more touches of the ball and played more passes than Lingard and Mata. They are 2 players that, against a pub team like Partizan Belgrade, should be running the game. And they are struggling to get an average 6 out of 10 performance. In fact, I think I gave them both below that. Again, I don't remember the last time I gave Juan Mata a 6. An average performance. He's been below average for ages. And Jesse Lingard is below average a lot as well. So we've got massive problems with the quality of our player. And we've got massive problems with the way we create chances. And... look, we know we've got weaknesses in the defence when we play people like Jones and Young and Rojo. They've always got a mistake in them. But a lot of people were saying Martial was crap last night. Understand, you could put Ronaldo up front, you could put Messi up front, Neymar up front, whoever you want to put up front, they would have had a bad game last night because you can't breathe if you're starved of oxygen. And it doesn't matter what you think about Martial or what you think about Rashford, they are not getting anywhere near the opportunities that a Harry Kane gets at Spurs or an Aubameyang gets at Arsenal. And I mean, I'm not even going to mention the Liverpool lads or the City lads because they get loads of chances. But they're living off scraps. And the problem is the midfield. You can't go into a season saying we're Polo FC, the mint with a hole in the middle, because we have got a hole in the middle. And I think, as I said at the start, we want to champion McTominay, we want to champion Fred, we want to champion Pereira. but they're only being championed because they put a shift in. They try hard. But that's not good enough for Manchester United. Trying hard should be across the whole squad, not 3 or 4 players. And we see a lot of players who play for us who don't try hard enough. But when you actually look at that midfield, we don't create enough chances because they're not good enough on the ball. I think they're good enough at putting in a tackle, putting in a slide tackle, getting in the ref's face. You know, they're good at that. They show that passion. But on the ball, they're not good enough. McTominay, Fred, Pereira, Mata, Lingard, none of them are anywhere near good enough on the ball. And we don't move the ball quick enough from back to front. And a lot of that's to do with them. So that is the issue. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do smash a like on the video. Remember, you can get your United Stand t-shirts, $19.99. We've got the green and gold as well. Links in the video description for that. And of course, as I said, make sure you're following our socials. Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Links are in the video description. We're going to be putting up content throughout the evening. Little questions, little bits there at the Ryan Giggs event. So if you want to see all that, links are in the video description for that. Make sure you smash a like on the video. Get your comments in below. What did you think about my thought about the youth at the start? I'm not disrespecting the youth. I hope the youth's successful. I just think we're being sold something that when you absolutely analyse it, it can't happen. We're not going to produce 4 or 5 world-class young players. And if that's not going to happen, then where is this team going right now? Because they're not ready. They've not got players to nurture them. And what club actually is going to produce? We've not done it since the class of 92. So we're suddenly, you know, to me, it's like we're absolutely on our knees as a club. We're in the bottom half. We're playing terribly. We've got a terrible squad. And what do we get from the club? Look at the youth. Look at the youth. We're back in 99. You know, that doesn't rhyme. But, you know, that's what they're trying to sell you. But if you stop waving your flags and going, yeah, the youth will help us out. If you actually look at it, we've not produced any top class youth players since the class of 92 in the mid-90s. And when you look at the class of 92 from the mid-90s, there was 3 or 4 world-class players in that group, and they were nurtured by Keane and Schmeichel and Cantona and Sir Alex Ferguson, a great coach. But we think we're going to replicate that with a crap squad, crap coaching, and players that aren't even close to being ready. You know, people think that Scholes and Beckham and everyone just appeared in 96 and won the Premier League title. They were making their debuts years before that and being nurtured gradually in a game, couple of games here. We're miles off. We're absolutely miles off. Thanks for watching. Get into the socials. T-shirts in the link in the video description. Giggs event. Follow us on the socials and smash a like, and I'll speak to you all soon. Get your comments in below.